Good day. This is Bob with News with Views from his studio here in Delhi. First piece of interesting news which I had earlier talked about is this uh, uh, visit of General Wei Fenghe. China's defense minister visits Nepal, seeks to resume military cooperation. This, folks, I had pointed out, is what the Chinese are really after. It's a they're after the Nepalese military, and a military that they can twist somehow against India. And here, a very interesting note by Ranjit Ray called Nepal Must Think Before Testing Gurkha Traditions had come up with this suggestion which says Nepalese Foreign Minister Pradeep Gayawali's recent statement that the 1947 tripartite agreement between India, Nepal, and the UK, which provides for the continued recruitment of Gurkha soldiers from Nepal into the Indian and British armies, is redundant, has caused dismay. And you can see the design, the Chinese design. This doesn't come out like on the fly. This is a plan. It's a plan in action. And this is something we should absolutely be ready for. But what does he say here? He says, currently, Indian Army recruits about 1,300 Gurkha Jawans every year, largely from the Magar, Gurung communities in western Nepal, and the Kirti Rai and Limbus from eastern Nepal. Then he further says, in addition, about 125,000 Gurkhas retirees live in Nepal. Salaries for serving soldiers and pensions defrayed for the Indian government amount to 4,200 crores, folks. And that's over 2% of Nepal's GDP, and that's not a trifling amount, right? Then he says, discussing terms and conditions of recruitment and service is one thing, but a possible argument that Nepalese Gurkhas should not be deployed during conflicts with countries friendly to Nepal, that is the real McCoy, folks. Because China fears the Gurkhas, and this is what lets the cat out of the bag. This would clearly be unacceptable. Nepal needs to think very clearly of the overall impact of its approach before taking steps that may eventually end a 200-year-old tradition and may just cause a rupture in the Nepalese army too, and maybe in their civil society. Who knows? Well, while Trump and Trumpism work, and there's hurry scurry to get out of Afghanistan, I don't think it's going to play out because your terror and violence has just grown. 2 bomb blasts in Afghanistan killed 34. Car bomb hits Ghazni, Zabul province. This is just ballistic. I mean, this is a group that cannot be trusted. They think that power comes from the barrel of the gun, right? Here's a thing that we another should take note of. China plans to build new dam on lower reaches of Brahmaputra. The dam, which could be located near Arunachal Pradesh, will be built with focus on national security, which means showing us the finger, folks. We have to be ready. This may be an act of war, just like Pakistan keeps shouting and screaming that, if we dam the Indus River, or we ban and we get rid of the Indus treaty system, Indus Valley River treaty system, it will be an act of war. This is actually also a red line that should be considered an act of war. Now, what's happening else? Siachen lessons give India an edge. This is what Lieutenant General Huda says. Conditions at Siachen are infinitely more challenging than Eastern Ladakh. The lessons learned will be of tremendous help to India. And here, the Chinese are at a serious disadvantage, and we've got to make them and push their face into the snow, as they would say, right? Going along here, India to assist Lanka strengthen its maritime security infra. That was a good meeting that happened there. But let me just say, I know this intrinsically. The real target for us has been the southern islands of Maldives. That's the place we need physical presence. That's the way we need boots on the ground. That's where we need our aircrafts. Sri Lanka is just a red herring. We need them on board. If they don't come on board, well, too bad. But here's something that came out in 2015, folks. And I think everybody's forgotten. 2015 is the time when Obama was in power in the United States. But Modi was in power here. What happened between then and now, one doesn't know. But this is a really interesting article which I dusted out, which had come out. It was a MJ Akbar byline, and I guess that had official stamp. It said US hard sells nuclear powered carrier to India. This is in 2015, folks. It says the US is offering to help build a nuclear powered aircraft carrier with fifth generation fighters for India, which would transform its military profile in the Indian Ocean region. This is the biggest and most audacious offer of the military cooperation by the US in India so far, and the clearest indication that Washington DC wants defense technology and trade as the principal drivers of the relationship with India. This happened with Obama. For some reason, this stalled with Trump. I don't see this offer went nowhere. I don't know where. Did we not pursue it? Did they take it off the table? But this, Biden's back. Regime made the offer. It is time this came back on the table, folks. It's a critical game changer for India, almost as big, if not bigger now, than the nuclear deal with the United States. It throws a completely different narrative. It creates a different narrative for India, totally. It says, the strategic justification of the offer is that this collaboration would resonate through the Asian continent to India's strategic advantage in the light of rapid Chinese inroads into the Indian Ocean region. Now, this was what he's talking about is in 2015. Guys, since then, a lot of water's flown under the bridge, and bloody China is all over the place. And look at what he says. He says, the prospect of a major Chinese naval presence in the Indian Ocean transforms India's hitherto secure rear into a springboard from which coercive power can be brought to bear against the Indian landmass. Notes Tellis in his paper, Making Waves, Aiding India's Next Generation Aircraft Carrier. Guys, this was really, really major foresight in 2015. They're putting pressure on us. They've captured the South China Sea, and now they pumped pressure. The truth has come to bear, man. Whatever the prophecy was, unbelievable, right? But Ashley Tellis, like I told you from his book, he knows what he's talking about. He says, Tellis argues that the principal objective underlying bilateral cooperation should be to ensure that India's next generation aircraft carrier, to include its air wing and its capacity for combat operations, will be superior to its Chinese counterparts. That is important. The US is pulling out all the stops to push carrier cooperation as the next big thing. Where is it now? I don't know, but it needs to be dusted off and started again. But experts reckon that a nuclear-powered supercarrier for India is not a pipe dream. This says, if the Americans can enable the process, it should be accepted in India's larger national interest. Okay. Then what do we hear? Should this audacious offer gain steam, there could be an inevitable geopolitical fallout. China could infer hostility, step up arming of Pakistan, and start trade wars. Well, that's already started, and this time it's been started by us and not by China, folks. Traditional defense supplier Russia too could cool off. While there's no defined common security vision or alignment of interest with the US, India may end up being acknowledged as the linchpin of the US pivot to Asia. Now, this was what was said in 2015 by Ashley Tellis. The Democrats were in power. We are back again. The Democrats are in power. We will continue to be United States linchpin for the Indo-Pacific against China. It's time to dust this proposal and put it back on the table, folks. More after the break. Welcome back, folks. Now, a sector that I think is critically important for India's national security is the aviation sector. In this regard, I've been saying this loud that the disinvestment of Air India should actually be designed to be a strategic disinvestment. It should not be just open-ended. Everybody and anybody can bid for it. I know that's difficult in this day and age, because there's always the fear of corruption or finger pointing. But this actually needs to be done that way, because it actually is a crown. It's a jewel in the crown, right? So this latest report that I saw yesterday, that Air India is now coming together with Vistara and Singapore Airlines to bid for Air India is probably the best thing that could have happened to Air India. Why I say that is, what does Singapore Airlines get, right? Singapore Airlines gets a vibrant future domestic market, which it doesn't have. What it also gets is landing slots on the eastern coast of the United States. For them, this hub and spoke model that can possibly work, which is from Singapore, India, on to all the slot India's really viable slots into Europe and on the eastern seaboard, can really make a lot of sense for both Air India and Singapore Airlines. Right? So this is the way it had to be sold. So in this force, and especially now with this concept of, in this COVID era, where bubbles, now as it says, I saw in touch with 13 nations to establish air bubbles, Puri, India forms air bubbles with UK, Germany now, and this was before this announcement of Tata's going with the proposing with Singapore Airlines. They're already, I mean, earlier there was Tata Sons confirms its weighing bid for Air India, and government was making it important. Government weighs dropping debt conditions in Air India sale. And then there was this report on Tata's Air India gamble. A possible bid for the troubled state-owned airline could be the first move towards bulking up its underwhelming aviation business. And if it joins with Singapore Airlines, it's a big win, right? And then it talks about, this was some further report, government weighs selling Air India without debt bubble. That's okay. I mean, there should be a legitimate amount of debt, but a lot of the debt has been accumulated just through poor management, and there should be a vehicle that should take care of that. But this combination, Air India while you're selling it. The other thing you really need to do is change the aviation policy. And when you change the aviation policy, you gotta think of what Dubai did, man. And so this is a note that I'm dusting off from a long time. It says Dubai, once a refueling stop, now a global hub. Okay, and you gotta take lessons from what they did, right? It says from its humble beginning as a refueling stop for travelers with no desire to linger in an inhospitable corner of the Arabian Peninsula, Dubai's airport has recently overtaken Heathrow's airport in London as the world's busiest international air travel hub. Just a decade ago, Dubai ranked 45th. And therein lies a lesson for India. What does it say? What does it? It says, soaring terminal with water cascades and fake palm trees, duty-free stores and high-end boutiques as athletes from Iran and tourists from Russia look for their next flight in this cosmopolitan oasis. What did it make use of? It made use of the same geography as India has. Geography situated within 8 flying hours of 2/3 of the world's population. Dubai has set up a global hub that can connect virtually any 2 cities in the world with just one stop. And that is true for India, and maybe not with one stop either, with no stop, right? But the cornerstone of the strategy was creating a new airline and building an aviation infrastructure around it to support its growth. That is good. Building an aviation sector. India has the kind of potential that Dubai doesn't have. Dubai is a one-horse town, one stop. India has got so many destinations. We really need to have a thriving airport authority that really thinks big, thinks out of the box, not just keep selling anything and everything to Adani, right? That's just a useless game changer, right? The carrier grew rapidly thanks to open sky policies that favor the development of the aviation sector and a business-friendly environment for foreigners. That's another important thing, right? To attract tourists, Dubai created monolith shopping festival offers, discounts and deals on global brands and cheaper fares and hotel rooms, right? Thanks to its aggressive airlines expansion, few restrictions on international flights, and large public investment. Dubai lies at the heart of a global travel nexus, and that's what India needs to become, folks. Immediately, this is the sector that needs to hum. Instead of just tourism, we should actually become the casino center of the world, folks. Jai Hind.